still I got a lingering love for this place. Let's turn that around. I don't wanna give up, 'cause I got a lingering love for this place. I got a lingering love for this place.
This is 106.1 KONR Out North Radio, and you're on the air with George Martinez now as we go into Tell George Live. And as I like to begin, let's take it right to a little occupation freedom.
Yeah. Sometimes all we need is a spark. Yeah. Set it off. I take money from the rich and invest it in the poor. Been a long time coming, time we settle the score. You can do it for your people, but I do it for your all. And yes, I got mines covered and I never let them fall. When the real hits the fan, son, who you gonna call? Not Ron Paul, more like the honor of Paul. River Martinez with a team of superheroes. Walk throughout the land for my team of super zeros. Add it up, come back with negative indictments of a system that starts out positive enlightenment. Occupy the streets, let's occupy the nation, but don't occupy your mind with false occupation. Occupy the positions when your team falls short. Stand with the accused by occupying the court. Occupy all airwaves, spaces in between. Occupy the undercover and the overseen. But when occupying ain't enough, and we need a next tactic. Combine the global blockade and see what happens. We do it for the people, we do it for the movement. Occupy America, that's what we do.
Occupation, that's what they all yelling, but it's gangster nation. A bank is that we selling our future while the politicians sit back thinking about the next move to scrape the next million off the backs of our children. I'm over telling the story so true that it's never selling. No more lies, occupying time in the minds of my sisters while we strive to survive and realize the lies and pictures of our future like the dimmer. Underneath the shadow they cast and leaving us without dinner. While we all gotta be strapped against the wall. No relief in sight, that's why we stressing to bore. Yo, we bring heat tonight to hear the call. And my suggestion is you heed the call. Occupied government ain't no either or. We are the ones we've been waiting for. I'm free, not defined by what I have, but what I give to my community and humanity. I'm free, I know my identity and really don't care what you think of me. I'm free, living my dreams, but with no fear impossibilities, cause I know they ain't there. I'm free, and already occupying the streets. This way, nothing ever could be taken from me.
All right, everybody. We're back on this. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Tell George Live. If you're tuning in, you're listening to Out North Radio on 106.1 on your FM dial. And if you are tuning in to Facebook, you're checking me out on George for Anchorage. And good to see you, Tony April. Good to see you, brother Tony. And everybody else that's tuning in right now. This is Tell George Live, a weekly call-in show where we we focus on people, politics, and progress. And I'm excited to have a special guest today. Anchorage School Board President Margot Bellamy is going to be joining me in a few minutes, and we're going to have a really good conversation today. And but as always, at the beginning of our broadcast, I want to begin with the land acknowledgement. So I recognize that I'm right now broadcasting from Anchorage, Alaska, the ancestral land of the Dena'ina Athabascan, whose stewardship once was and remains today. So thank all my indigenous folks, and especially my Alaska Native brothers and sisters, for your stewardship and your continued grace and hospitality as we all are here together on this wonderful third or final days of June, about to go into the 4th of July weekend. And I hope everybody has had a great start of the week. I mean, my Monday has been phenomenal. I've had a great day. Lots of things moving in my workplace. Tonight, my son is starting his first game as an all-star for the year, so all-star for Little League Baseball. So if you're a community sports parent and you want to shout out your kid or your child sports, the number here is 222-1061, and I'll get you on the air if you got a community shout-out, especially around sports. And also want to shout all of my friends and community brothers and sisters that are at fish camp and have been fishing, who have both a subsistence background, but also who are out there just kind of recreationally. Something that I like to do, but I haven't really had a lot of chance this year to get out there fishing. But if you're out there fishing, if you're at fish camp, if you're at a culture camp, shout you out, and hope you're being safe and having a good time out there. And I also want to shout out tonight at Cafecito Bonito, which is a coffee spot, formerly the location on the east side for Uncle Leroy's coffee spot. But tonight, the Alaska Humanities Forum, my employer, has some folks hosting a continuous conversation. Should be pretty good. It goes on to 8 o'clock. I'll try to swing by if I can after the show. But if you're tuning in, you're able to hit the east side and want a little cup of coffee, Cafecito Bonito is a good place to go visit. It's newly owned by a Latina entrepreneur who used to work at Uncle Leroy's. So this is, I like to support community and small businesses, especially, and people who are entrepreneurs stepping out there. So Cafecito Bonito tonight on the east side, right off at the bar near Turpin, not that far off the area there. You'll find that spot in the Russian Jack. Actually, it's in the Russian Jack Plaza, Cafecito Bonito, and the Alaska Humanities Forum is having a conversation there tonight, which should be interesting. And then also, if you were involved in any community activities this weekend, past weekend, or got anything coming up, I'd love to hear from you. I was at the Korean Friendship Day on Saturday. Out there, had a chance to be there as a co-host, one of the MCs for the day. And folks know I love getting on the mic and having a good time with community. And it was a great day. The weather held up, and there was a lot of people that came out to support Korean Alaska Friendship Day, the 14th anniversary of it. And I saw you out there, Billie Jean Mueller. So it's good to see you again right now with us on the Facebook feed, but it was a great day. So if you have any comments, you have any questions, feel free to use the Facebook chat, and I'll get them on the air. And also feel free to give a call, 222-1061. I'll try to get you on the air. It's a little more iffy getting you on the air with the phone, but I'll try. But definitely I'll put your comment on if you're able to tune in and check us out on Facebook at George for Anchorage. So I had a good weekend out there, and I just want to shout out the Korean American Association for their work putting this on. The Bridge Builders of Anchorage, who had a strong presence out there too. President Lisa Mounscraft and others who joined in. Welcoming Anchorage had a presence out there. APD had a presence out there. Shout out to Acting Chief, soon to be Permanent Chief Ken McCoy. And we'll have Ken McCoy and the Chief of Police on this show too coming up soon, because I'd like to have some different guests and different community voices coming on in. So we'll have a lot of different conversations. Today I have Margot Bellamy going to be calling in just a few minutes, and I'm looking forward to that conversation. But if you were at any of the community activities this weekend that you'd like to shout out, and if you saw me out there at the community activities and like to get on the air with me, it's 222-1061. Right. Once again, this is George Martinez on Out North Radio, and this is Tell George Live, a weekly call-in show focused on people, politics, and progress. So if you were at the Korean Alaska Friendship Day and have some reflections, want to share some of your thoughts, feel free to give a call. We'll try to get you on the line. Or if you're tuning in on Facebook. And I also, after that, I was there from about 9:30 a.m. to close to 4 o'clock. It was a long day. And then I went and had a chance to go over to the Pride Block Party. So if you were at the Pride Block Party too, and you're tuning in, give a call. I'd love to hear your thoughts and reflections. Now, this was at the Writer's Block with hosted by Mahogany Magnetic, and Mahogany told me this was the 3rd anniversary of hosting it. So if you have any reflections, Mahogany, if you're tuning in, I'd love to get your feedback. We'll get you on the show another time to have a more thorough conversation, but just wanted to shout out the Pride Block Party and all the different folks that came out to support that and to celebrate the Pride celebration of the month of Pride activities, but really the celebrating inclusion, celebrating participation, and celebrating that everyone can enjoy and bloom and blossom in this city. And that's what, for me, it's really focused on, and I'm focused on bringing people together to move Anchorage forward. So good to see you. Thank you. It was, and I'm having a great evening, Billie Jean. It turned out to be a pretty good evening, and in terms of weather-wise, I like it a little darker because I'm a little light-sensitive nowadays as I'm getting a little older. Every year, the body changes a little bit, and here's the last thing I'd like to talk about. If anybody wants to call in on this, I saw a list today of mayoral appointments coming into the new Bronson administration. And I'd love to hear what your thoughts and reflections are about some of those. I have some strong feelings, but I'm going to reserve those thoughts and feelings tonight. I'm going to really just want to hear your thoughts. If you have any reflections, if you want to post any comments, if you're tuning in on Facebook, I'll put them on the air and shout them out. We're going to have Margot Bellamy joining us in just a couple of minutes. So, again, if you were at any community activities this week and got something to share, I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you were at the Korean-Alaskan Friendship Day, which was a phenomenal activity, I'd love for you to share your thoughts. And I'll get the president on the call with us, too, another time to just talk a little bit more about the event, but also what's going on in this different communities. It's one of the things I want to do on this show, and I'd love to hear your perspectives, the topics that we should cover, the people that we could try to get on the air, the voices that need to be heard. Share them with me, and let me help get them on the FM dial and use this platform to continue to grow community, but make sure that all voices are heard. And that's really what's important to me. And all voices, let me send the message in now so I could get our school board president on the line. And we'll have Margot calling in just a second. And I'm really excited about this conversation because our school district is so diverse. Our city has such measurements of diversity that the more voices we can have in the processes, in all of our processes, the better. So what do you think about the incoming administration's appointments? If you have any reflections on that, I'm always open for any political thoughts or comments you may have. We want to keep it on a high level. And as always, we always want to be able to disagree with dignity, but still be able to have a good, robust conversation. I think, disagreeing with dignity and but still having being able to have conversation is important because that's how we're going to move things forward. And on the line with me now, I'm going to bring in the microphone full speed. Let's just do a check. Margot Bellamy, are you on the line with me?
I am. Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, we can hear you. Let me make sure that I pull this down a little bit so I can hear you clearer. Hey, everybody. This is Tell George Live 106.1 Out North Radio, and I'm excited to have Anchorage School Board President Margot Bellamy on the line with me. Hey, Margot.
Hi, George. How are you?
Doing really good. Excited for this conversation and to have you on the line with me. And but that's my opening question for you: is how are you doing?
I'm doing just fine. It's trying to enjoy the sunshine when we have it. But we're just busy getting ready for school to open. Well, we're finishing summer school, the block 1 of summer school, getting ready for block 2, and really focused on starting our school year in just about a little over a month.
It's coming up really fast. I mean, I was
It is.
I was thinking today of, we're still in summertime technically, but we know that it goes fast in Alaska, and you really gotta own it. But I love the idea of making sure that our kids have an opportunity to catch up some of that ground that was lost this year. Can you talk a little bit about the what we're seeing in terms of the need for what we're finding in terms of the summer school need and some of the ground, the gaps that kind of maybe been exaggerated last year because of the nature of school and how discombobulated a lot of it was just for parents and let alone a school district working through from a pandemic with high degrees of uncertainty to a political environment that is toxic, to put it mildly.
That's that. There is no one answer. So let me see if I can try to take that apart a little bit and provide some insight. One of the things the pandemic exposed a lot of inequities, and that's not news to us. But they were exacerbated during the pandemic. Things like, kids just being able to be kids, really, just to be with their friends. You may recall last year during graduation time, we did not have a graduation.
Right.
Well, actually, we didn't have a traditional graduation, but each school did its own celebration. And while that was good, it just wasn't the same. And so this year, catapult to this year, we did have a traditional graduation for our seniors, and it was outside. And while there were a few challenges, I think our students and families enjoyed that much better than it did last year.
Right.
So that's just one obvious and real recent situation. So it's not just that social contact, the social emotional piece of education. It's the academic piece as well.
Right.
And parents did a fantastic job of helping to keep their kids engaged, but it is not the same as and keep them online, because we transitioned online, and we learned a lot from being online. And it will change the way that we will provide more options for kids who really prefer to be online.
To your point, we learned a lot. Parents learned a lot about how their kids learn.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Parents learned a lot. I think the situation between parents and teachers, while there were some stressful times, I believe there is a renewed mutual respect. Because we could not have done what we did without parents being able to change their lives around.
The flexibility.
Many parents literally had to stop work,
right,
or they chose to stop work. Others got real creative, and they created these wonderful pods of families where kids could still be together, be engaged, have a virtual option. And so, there was a lot of good that came out of that. But the things that were not so good that we are trying to conquer now, or at least mitigate now, are the learning losses.
Right.
Kids being able to read, to do math, and to be ready, however they need to be ready for that next level. And so that is what the summer learning program is all about. It's about taking kids where they are, understanding that we lost a lot of instructional time. We will never make up that time. But what we can do is give kids opportunities and experiences, on the downtime, like during the summer. And I know it's a choice. It's a tough choice.
Right. Alaska summer. It's
Alaska summer. We compete with that. And but we have about 10,000 students.
I was going to say, how many kids?
Over 10,000 students that's taking advantage of summer school.
Wow. And is this the first time that we're doing this? I mean, because of this reason?
So I will say that this is the first. In the past, summer school has been for those kids who, mostly for students who needed to make up work.
Make up work.
All right. And so while we're trying to mitigate learning loss, but we're also giving kids an opportunity to get to that next level.
Mm-hmm.
So if they want to, and if there's room, so we are focused on those kids that have the highest need, those kids whose academic data is showing that they have gaps in their learning. But at the same time, we are also offering those enrichment opportunities for kids as well.
That's great.
And so yes, we've always had summer school, but not this robust,
and it's
not this focus.
Well, like you said, it's also we haven't had this type of need and this type of shift in the world place, in all places, that to see institutions stepping up for the kids. I just, as a parent, we had all the options available to us, from the online to the hybrid to the return in person, and we are grateful as parents. I know there were a lot of differences between what people wanted to see, but that's part of the walking through times of uncertainty, trying to do the best that could be done with the information in front of folks, and really, and I say this, giving parents a lot of information and options. That's what helped a lot of us be able to navigate this time.
Exactly. And as with anything, we have some individuals who are more engaged and want more, and we try to be as understanding and as flexible as we can with providing those opportunities. So I am absolutely, could it have been better? Absolutely. Hindsight is always better.
Of course.
Did we keep kids out of school too long? I don't know. I don't think we did. I think we did what the data told us was in the best interest of our kids. At the same time, there are families that disagree, and I get it. So, we can only do the best that we can with the information that we can. And so when we look at the data, and we have done, and people were wondering, well, why are we testing kids? They just need to be, first of all, the government requires, or the feds, federal federal government requires that we test kids. So we could not have gotten any of our funding if we were not testing kids. We need to know where kids are, and I believe it's in the best interest of our kids, so that we know where they are academically. Teachers use that data to move them forward and to plan the opportunities for them that they need to have. And so, and then it's not, it wasn't just hard for our families and our kids. It was also difficult for our teachers.
Right.
They left for spring break and came back in a week and had to shift to online learning.
Right.
That's a whole different way of teaching. It's a whole different way of teaching.
Right. That was a crash course for everybody.
It was.
Right.
And I think, the fact that, and I do understand that in creating options, but the thing with creating options is some people will embrace them and other people will not. All right. So there is no one size fit all. And that's one of the things that I think we knew, but I think it was even more demonstrated during COVID.
Right. And some of those socioeconomic challenges, community challenges, the lack of infrastructure that is not evenly distributed across our community. Those things really played and showed up in terms of the school.
Because it does no good to shift to online if our kids don't have access.
Right.
All right. And so, so then it became, okay, so we're moving to online, but our kids don't have computers. So we had to purchase computers for every kid that needed one.
Right.
Once we got the computers, we realized families could not afford or did not have internet.
Right.
So that had to be that challenge had to be
and like you mentioned, just if you hadn't had those things, and the exposure to the technology means that now there's a learning curve. How to use the device, how to use the technology, how to, as a parent, how to support your kids in this new environment.
Absolutely. And for some of our kids, language was an issue.
Right.
It wasn't just access to computer; it was also language. So,
Mm.
we had to really get at a 20,000-foot level and really look to see, okay, so how are we going to deliver education? And I believe the staff, I mean, the teachers did a great job. I know they learned a lot. I learned a lot from them. The leadership, of the principals, and then the leadership from central administration. I mean, people had to be moved from where they traditionally felt comfortable, to this other place, and and at the same time keep kids number one.
Now, how did you at the same time, I wanted to slide over to this parent survey, because feedback, learning has been really important. We've seen in the public when policies have moved, wherever the policies may come from, when they move in ways that are not necessarily aligned to the feedback loop, people get in trouble, right? So I know that parent involvement and parent feedback is critical to you. What there's a parent survey going on. What about that? How important is that? How can people make sure that their voices are heard?
Yes, absolutely. And I'm glad that's a great question. One of our goals as a board is to improve the way that we engage with our stakeholders and our families, our students, our staff, and our partners within the community. And so the survey, which is still online, we initially the school board put the survey out there so that we could hear from parents on what worked during COVID and what didn't work. And then what were their hopes and dreams for the new funds that we were getting in, that were coming to us. And so that process is still ongoing. Parents still have an opportunity. Parents and partners, anybody in the community can actually access our survey. And it's an input survey. It's on our website. It probably won't take you more than, depending on how verbal you are. It won't take you
and I'm
going
to post that link in there. Now, just be clear. You said this was a feedback for parents to learn, for the school district to learn what worked and what didn't work with respect to COVID. And then also, this is what I also heard you say. I want all the listeners to make sure they heard this part too. A question of, what are your hopes and or dreams, or how would you like to see the school district utilizing an influx of new resources?
Yes, that is it.
Right on. So if you're a parent out there and you're listening, and you both haven't done this, if you haven't done the survey yet, so first of all, if you have done the survey, thank you. Great job. Make sure your friends and others in your community know about the survey. But if you haven't taken it yet, School Board President Margot Bellamy just let us all know that it's still open, and it's still an opportunity for you to have your voices heard about what worked and what didn't work with respect to COVID and the school district and your child's education. And then also,
and George,
yes, ma'am.
It's real prominent right on our first. When you go to our website, you'll see it right there.
And say the website for everybody. I'm going to post it as well, but
okay, it's www. Okay, wait a minute. Hold on.
Right.
Our website is ASD. Let's see. Hold on a minute.
We're getting it right. It's okay. We want to make sure
I know
we got it 100% right. There's a lot of little branches to all of these web.
I know this like I know the back of my hand. For some reason, I'm just having a brain.
Hey, everybody. This is Tell George live on Out North Radio 106.1 KONR. And I'm on the line with Anchorage School Board President Margot Bellamy. And we're getting the website.
George.
Here we go.
www.asdk12.org. www.asdk12
altogether. There you go. So we're going to post that.
On the first page, when you get to the first page, the main page, you'll see a link that will take you to the parent survey. And it will tell you the purpose of the survey. When you get to it, it will tell you the purpose of the survey, to determine our priorities, and to also get an idea of what worked and what as we plan for next year, the 21-22 school year. What would those priorities be, and what would parents like to see?
It's a really important opportunity, everybody, to follow up on that. And we just posted the website, so for everybody that's tuning in, and if you're listening in on Facebook, you can see it on the chat. But it's www.asdk12.org. Everybody. So that's where the survey is, and we're on the line.
And George, if I may, there is lots of information on our website, not just the survey. But, for instance, this is a time of year when we're getting ready for, our enrollment registration. So whether you are returning to the district or whether you are a new family to the district, you can find that information on our website. So, and if you are returning, you can just register. I think both options will allow you to register online, but you can get that right off of our website.
So the website is a resource.
It is a fantastic resource to our families and our community.
Excellent. And there was something else you mentioned, and you talked about this a little bit in the gap, and you mentioned the technological divide, the internet divide. But one of the subject areas that you mentioned for me earlier, before we got on the air, was this emergency broadband benefit for families.
Oh, yes.
I would love to hear more about that.
Okay. So, and that's also on our website. But it's right on that front page because it's a new benefit for families who may be struggling to have access to internet. And so if you look on that's a federal program. There are providers listed where families can apply and get $50 a month toward their internet expenses. So, but you have to qualify, and that's a brand new benefit for our families, and we're it's part of making sure that our kids have access to learning. We are planning to come back to school for a regular school day, everybody, but we do not have all the information that is going to be that we need to know yet, right?
Right.
One of the things that I have learned through this pandemic is that despite our best plans, things can change on a dime.
Ain't that the truth?
We've got to be flexible. I think the superintendent calls it nimble, but we've just got to be ready, and we've got to keep kids first with whatever it is that we're doing. That benefit is one that I'm really happy to see, because our families do struggle. Not everybody come from the same set of or vantage points, right?
That's right. That's right.
Not at the same beginnings. We don't all begin at the same place.
That's right.
But once we realize that, then we have the opportunity to give kids what they each need, so that they can be where they can be the best, be their best self, and achieve as much as any other kid, right? This is not about race. It's about opportunities, and it's about making and resources. So what does George need so that he can be successful? I can't hold you accountable, George, for where you came from, but I can guide you and resource you and give you the opportunities that you need so that you can be successful.
What do we?
And so that's what this whole equity thing is about. It's not about taking from some and giving to others. It is about giving every kid what they need. And so if Margot is not reading by grade by when she enters school, but George can read Little House on the Prairie, All right. George needs to continue with his reading, and Margot needs to have the opportunities to catch up. So nobody is being held back or denied the opportunity to be successful. We are trying to make it so that every kid, regardless of their zip code,
Right.
regardless of who their parents are, regardless of where they live, they will have the opportunity to learn and to be successful.
Well, you mentioned before that and this is true. That's not one size fits all, right? And so that's
Absolutely.
that you have to take that into account. And here's the real question for all of the other policymakers and folks that have political and policy problems with what you're describing. Why not? Why not invest to make sure that we have more people who are able to positively contribute to the workplace, more people able to advance themselves and their families forward by providing these foundational resources, especially with respect to education. The why not seems that's going to be part of how we push this.
Yeah, and I'm the wrong one to ask that, because I really listen to a lot of opinions. I listen to a lot of
well, you hear it all. They're coming. You're right there.
And I have to. So I have to put what Margot Bellamy thinks. I have to put that aside, because what I try to do is to listen at. Everybody have hopes and dreams for their kids.
Right.
My dream as a parent for my kids is really, other than, it's not going to be any different than we want our kids to be successful. We want them to read. We want them to be able to do math. We want them to be ready for life, career, or college when they come out of school. I don't think there's anybody who would disagree with that. Now, you might disagree with maybe the steps we take to do it, but I don't think any parent disagrees with that, because that's what this community told us was important in this.
No matter who you were, that's what people said was important to them. Right.
Exactly. So the board took in all that information, and we came up with our goals and our guardrails. And so I can't dwell on the question about why not. All right, I can't, because I have to look out for what's best for all kids. And so I'm always looking, how do we move kids from where they are to that next level, so that they are ready to engage, ready to be successful. Now, because see, from my perspective, I want to see more kids, all kids, poor kids, kids of color. I want to see kids in those high level AP classes. I do.
Right.
That is one of my dreams. But if they cannot read by the third grade, that opportunity is out of the window for them. And so when I look at the totality of a child's education from pre-K all the way up to grade 12, the foundational stuff that kids need to be successful, it starts in preschool.
Right.
If I had my biggest dream, my biggest dream would be for every kid in this town who wanted to go to preschool, have a preschool experience, that they would have that preschool.
It's a critical investment. It would be
free, right?
Right.
Now, parents will choose other options, but that's the parents' prerogative. But for every kid, every family who would want to have a preschool experience, I would want them to have that, because it prepares them for learning. It prepares them for kindergarten.
Right. And
prepares them for first grade.
And parents
grade.
know this. We all know this. We understand. I mean, think about it from this perspective. Even in the wintertime, and this is a total different metaphor, but in the wintertime, we don't just jump in our car, turn it on and go. We even got to warm that car up. I mean, so Like there.
Or you're gonna have some problems.
Or you're gonna have some problems. So it's about making sure we're warming things up. We're getting people ready and getting our young people ready to move forward. Now, Margo, I just want to shout out, hey everybody, if you're tuning in now, this is Out North Radio, KONR 1061, and you're on the air with George Martinez, Tell George Live, and my special guest today is Anchorage School Board President Margo Bellamy. We're having a great conversation about a whole lot of important information, and one of the most important things that we talked about was how to find out more information and a resource. Go visit the ASD website at asdk12.org. Now, Margo, you mentioned listening to a lot of different voices, and I know you got a strong will, but your role as a school board president, it requires the flexing of different muscles and the growth of different areas as a leader. But I wanted to just take it to this perspective and ask a little bit more about the nature of equity with respect to the school board's language and around anti-racism, and why and what does that mean? What is that body of work focused on, and how meaningful is that to the goals and the aspirations that you have in terms of making sure that every kid can succeed?
Great. I think it's a valuable piece that the policies you are referring to, which we passed, I think, in March of this year. One, Board Policy 6140 is our instructional equity policy. And they came at the same time, debated separately, but were approved at the same time. The instructional equity policy passed unanimously, and I'll talk a little bit about that.
Okay.
Our anti-racism policy passed with a 6-1 vote. I'm sorry. It would have been a 5-1 vote simply because member Marcette had already ended her tenure on the board.
Okay.
So for one of the things that, just to give you a little context, a year ago, following the George Floyd's death, the board issued a statement, and that statement was around ensuring that that we basically made sure that every kid had what they need to be successful,
right,
and that we would not limit opportunities, we would increase opportunities for kids. We would put policies in place that would remove barriers to learning, barriers to opportunity. That is, and so for the Anchorage School District, when the school board adopted its anti-racism policy, I know people have brought in different perspectives to it. When the school board approved the policy, of which myself and member Dina Mitchell brought the policy forward, it drastically changed from what it was. It took us 8 months to bring this forward, because one of the, you don't just bring a policy and it becomes a policy. It has to be written and rewritten and debated and discussed. And what comes out is in the end is something that most of the board is comfortable with and believe is the right thing for kids. So in our perspective, the work that we did on the anti-racism policy, it was to identify and remove barriers. Now, where are the barriers? We don't know where they are. They're in probably whatever those barriers are that are giving us the kinds of data that we see today. And if you want to go to our data dashboard, it is very clear that some kids are more successful than other kids are in the Anchorage School District. And when you really drill down into the data, you will see that the kids who are not being successful are as successful as they could be, are our children of color, our special needs kids. So I don't care whether you're looking at graduation rates. So these are the barriers that we're talking about based on what our data tells us. Race is a factor. It's not the only one. Poverty is a factor.
Poverty is a
But
huge factor.
what special ed is a factor,
Right.
right? And so whatever the policy is addressing, removing, creating a opportunity so that when we look at the data in 5 years or 3 years or hopefully less, when we look at our data, all of our kids are going to be doing well. There will be no disparity based on race. Now, the data tells us some of our kids are doing well, some of our kids are not. So then you look at why, and then you look at what are the factors. Race is a factor, poverty is a factor. And so eliminating that, being aware of it, holding ourselves accountable to every kid, that's what our anti-racism policy is all about.
And Margot,
it's not about denying kids, some kids, and making kids. It's not that.
Right. This is not a shell game. Let's just call it that. This is not a shell game. We're not swapping positions. That's not what this is all about.
It's based on the facts relative to the Anchorage School District data. Anyone can go and look at that. We have a data dashboard. If you on our site, you can have access to it. It is not. I mean, this is, it is.
There's a lot of transparency associated with this.
We can't ignore some kids.
Right.
All means all.
And I wanted Margo, I wanted to hit on this anti-racism a little bit more too, because that's a unique term, right? And and it's a term that really has emerged over the last couple of years, specifically the work of X Kendi, that kind of pushed this out into the popular space. But for folks who are listening, there's a difference. And anti-racism really is about being proactive. It's about redefining the lines between not racist or proactively removing barriers, right? So the difference between being passive or using this as a verb to drive better outcomes. I think that's the main difference of why this language is important, because it signifies a proactive, forward-facing intentionality.
And I would agree with that. And, one of the things that we try to do, you can't, I don't know, I don't care how many times I say it. People are going to believe, they bring their own lens to the term anti-racism.
Yeah.
And I get that. But to not, we have got as a district to not acknowledge that there are, and we defined it. We defined anti-racism is the practice of identifying, challenging, and changing the values, structures, and behaviors that perpetuate systemic racism, racial hatred, bias, and the oppression of marginalized people. Now, that's not divisive. That's the reality. That's real.
Right.
We didn't make that language up.
Right.
So when you look at the data, I think we would have been remiss if we did not call it for what it was, right? But we did try to define it. Now there is a lot of people will say, and I understand, because for many years I was the equal employment director for the Anchorage School District, and I dealt with I enforced the district policies around discrimination and inclusion and those, and that whole, all those protections, those legal protections under the law. And a lot of people will say, well, we don't need anti-racism policies. What we need is, we just need to enforce the law. But the law is there. We did not replace the law.
Right.
This is like an added accountability.
This is the, and I go back to you. This is the operative word in that definition that the school board has, which is the verb, is the practice of. Right. It's the practice. It's about a charge to be proactive with the dismantling of barriers that the data shows that people anecdotally know, people's lived experiences recognize, but you all have moved to a data point, and I think that's really important. And just another highlight, a lot of data is available on the website, so you could dig in, you could ask some questions. But Margot, one of the challenges for me, and I wanted to just change this up before we on our last few minutes. One of the challenges for me is that a lot of people just get stuck on terminology, and I just want people to get to what they mean. I get over the rhetoric. I don't want to hear all this kind of highfalutin language when essentially, to your point earlier, what's the value proposition of what we're all working for? The betterment of all of our kids, making sure every kid can be successful, making sure a city can grow, making sure that they can grow up in a city that they can continue to thrive and then contribute back to that city and or to our country or wherever they show up in the world. So I think we're all on that page.
You know, and it's kind of like, George, and and I'm real sensitive because I believe words matter. I think what we say and what we call things and how we refer to people, all of that matters. You know, I can remember being called to school for one of my own kids, many years ago now, and they were, my child was getting suspended because of a situation, and that situation was horseplay. And I'm going, oh, you're suspending for horseplay. What they meant was it was a fight, right? So you can't call horseplay a fight, that's different. Horse playing is playing around. If you are fighting, that's a whole different set of behaviors, right?
Right.
And so, I agree with you. We have got to be crystal clear in our language.
That's
which
right.
Which is why in each of the policies we defined in the first paragraph what it is how is the board holding ourselves and the superintendent and all of the employees accountable for. And in the instructional equity policy, it's fairness and access to opportunity and advancement. Who would not want that for themselves or their kids?
Right. Now,
and so one final comment on that, on the instructional equity. When we did our board goals, we started our board goals, or at least our strategic planning, which led to our board goals. We started in the fall of, I think it was October of 2018.
Yes.
And it took us quite, well, no, it would have been not 2018, 2019. I think because that's when I joined the board in 2019. So there had been, they had a plan in place when I got on the board, and I was lucky to get on at a time when I could understand and really work to do this whole strategic planning process. And that process was an excellent process, because we got to have conversations throughout the community, talking with parents, talking with kids, talking with our partners, talking with the business people, talking with nonprofits. I mean, the process was a great process. And so, because people want to do, so we didn't have this instructional equity policy at the time, but every single thing that came back, every goal, every guardrail,
all pointed in that direction.
Is embedded with equity.
Right.
Okay. The policy simply holds us accountable to doing the work that's necessary.
And I would say that the public has overwhelmingly spoken in terms of like electoral results that there's support for that direction, moving the school board in that direction, moving the district in the direction around those values that you talked about, and through those policies. I would say that there's a lot of vocal opposition, but we've got to work with all parents. We've got to work with all parents. It's not enough for me to just explain to George, although I love you. I have to be able to explain and understand when people just don't buy what I tell them. And but that does not make it untrue. That's right.
All right. We all bring a lens We all bring an experience to the work. We all have, but I think for me, we have to focus on, I try to focus on what is good for all kids.
For all kids.
Regardless of where they live, regardless of whether they're poor or rich. That is the challenge of public education, but it's our duty. It is our duty. That's why it is public education and not some other kind of education.
Well, everybody, this is.
But I think with wherever we have kids, we are going to have parents who have dreams and desires for their kids. And my job, I think the school board job is to figure out collectively. It's not just about, I can't do anything with one vote.
Right.
Not a thing. It has to be.
It's about bringing people. It's about bringing people
process.
forward, right, in the democratic process in our community. And hey, everybody, we're almost at time. This is George Martinez, Tell George Live, Out North Radio 106.1. I'm on the air with Margot Bellamy, Anchorage School Board President. And Margot, my final question for the day is, when you think about moving, what do you think about how to move Anchorage forward? What is the thing that when you think about how Anchorage moves forward, what does that mean to you?
It for me, it's all about education. An educated community. You know, we all benefit from a quality education system. You know, I want our kids to want to come back to Anchorage to be citizens of this place. And I think that the stronger our educational system is, the stronger our community will be. Nobody can live, you can't just, so, and I believe public education is key. We've got to not only just invest, and this community is wonderful. It has invested in education. And we have to continue investing because we all benefit from a quality education. I may think it's just about my grandkids or just about my own kids, but it can't be, because they are going to be part of this community. And so for me, it all comes back to, and I know that there are other factors, and within that, not just educating, but making sure kids are safe, they are healthy, making sure they have the supports that they need, whatever their challenge is. It's hard work, but it's heart work as well.
It's hard work, but it's heart work, and it's necessary work. Hey, Margot Bellamy's on the air with us. Thank you, School Board President Bellamy, for joining me for this edition of Tell George Live, for sharing your thoughts and reflections and that important information and those insights so that people in our community know how to get connected and they know how to make sure that their voices are heard. Margot Bellamy, everybody, Anchorage School Board President. For more information about all of the different programs or data sets that we talked about, you can visit the school district's website at www.asdk12.org. Margot, I'll see you soon at the next barbecue. Thank you thank you for joining on the air tonight, and keep up the good work. You're making all of us so proud out here, and we know your motivation. It comes from the heart. Your family, you have such a tremendous family out in the community, and I'm privileged to be connected, and I thank you for your time with us tonight. I'll see you soon, Margot.
All right. Thank you, George.
All right. Bye. Margot Bellamy, everybody, Anchorage School Board President. What a great conversation today. Remember, these conversations will stay up on Facebook for 24 hours. So if you missed the live broadcast, you can still catch it on our Facebook channel, George for Anchorage. And you could catch it for the next 24 hours, and then we'll pull it off and we'll do a highlight reel at some point. My name is George Martinez, and I'm privileged to be the host of Tell George Live right here on Out North Radio 106.1 on your FM dial. I'll see you next week, and you'll hear me next week as we bring more focuses again all around people, politics, and progress. And thanks School Board Member Margot Bellamy for being with us. And my time is over. I'll see you next week, and looking forward to our conversations. This is Out North Radio on 106.1 KONR.
She's so wet you can't forget.